Like many others right now, I've been balls deep in Black Myth Wukong, a game I feel like I've been waiting for forever and anticipated the most since I first played Lies of P. It's my first game I've played using this action RPG combat style, and I want to give you my initial thoughts on Black Myth Wukong and my first 12 hours of gameplay, new player experiences, and how it runs on the PlayStation 5. I'll also try and give you some helpful tips that I wish I knew earlier on regarding combat, and I'll try and keep it as spoiler-free as I can, and if I remember, I'll put some timestamps in the video description. If you enjoyed the video, maybe chuck a cheeky like on it and subscribe for some more Black Myth Wukong content, as I plan on making a lot more now I have more time to regularly upload. Anyway, let's get into it. Starting a new journey in Black Myth Wukong, you're immediately slapped in the face with an incredible cutscene which really sets the bar going forward. And the cheeky Monkey King shows his arrogance and his humour in his dialogue, which I absolutely loved. I even got called a mug by a tiger later on.
Where do you come from? You bird-based mug.
Then you phone into the tutorial boss to try and get your head around the combat style. This answered my first question I had immediately. Is it a Souls-like? Combat-wise, I'll flat out say no it ain't. Reason being, yeah, it might have the element with a dodge mechanic, but as far as actual fighting goes, no mate, it's not. Your main attacks are light and heavy attacks, and you have abilities to blend into your combat style as you progress through the game. I've had people on stream saying it's a mix of like Sekiro and God of War, but not having the pleasure of playing those games enough myself, I'm unable to comment. But for me, I can't fight these bosses like I can fight an Elden Ring boss. So that's probably as blunt as I can put it, and I learned that the hard way. More on that in a bit. With Souls-like comparisons, the only thing I've really noticed so far is the shrines, which are your checkpoints as you work your way through the chapters, your gourd, which replenishes your HP, you get other flasks, buffs, and talisman slots, which are called curos. But does that make it a Souls-like? No mate, nearly every game has a checkpoint and an upgrade system, right? After the sick intro cutscene and making your way through the beginning of chapter 1, you'll notice how linear the game is. But it's not as small as you think. You notice this more as you progress through the game, but each chapter is full of secrets and alternate paths, which are going to lead you to side bosses, main bosses, and exclusive items and rewards. A perfect example of this during chapter 1, you'll notice a hench blue geezer with a massive head. I'll be honest, I found him pretty tough as I was learning how to fight for a start, but after leaving him alone and exploring an alternate path, I found another mini-boss, slapped him up a bit, and was able to get his spell ability and use it against the big blue boy after a few more attempts. This is where I noticed the pattern that exploring is key, and you are always rewarded with necessary items for either other quests or specific upgrade materials. Other mini-bosses are similar in the game as well. You'll notice mini-bosses throughout the game, and some have a blue glow around them, which will look familiar to other mob enemies, but with a much larger health pool. Definitely fight these mugs, because you're able to acquire their spirits, which not only allow you to use the spirit's ability during combat, but when equipped, they give you a passive buff, which can come in well handy. I haven't used them all yet, but I do love the massive headbutt, which does serious damage, and the big damage reduction buff it also has. These become even more apparent as you progress through the game, and you'll get yourself a nice little collection. Slight spoiler incoming. When I found the rat daddy and his lad in chapter 2, I went straight for the big boy, as I thought that was normal. However, I didn't find out until later on that if you kill the little daddy rat first and then the big boy, you can acquire the rat spirit. I did it the wrong way around unknowingly, but hopefully this will help you out so you don't miss it. Another quick tip, if you do beat the boss from the Village of Despair shrine by the rat daddy, there'll be another optional boss just through the cave. If the boss doesn't break the wall, you can just get your giant headbutt out and smash it yourself. Anyway, briefly staying on the subject of secrets within chapters, you'll notice a running theme in each one. Chapter 1 is ringing bells. Chapter 2 is collecting Buddha's eyeballs, just to name a couple. Completing these objectives will continue to give you more bosses and items, as well as following NPC quests throughout the areas. Some giving you proper key items to help you fight the final boss of each chapter. Like I said earlier on, I don't want to give away too many spoilers, as the game is only just released. I'm just trying to encourage you to keep looking about, because as soon as you enter chapter 2, you'll notice how interlinked each chapter is, and either other items you find whilst exploring will open up previous chapter areas. Right, moving on to combat and the skill tree. You upgrade your skill tree by using sparks, which you can obtain through taking out enemies and bosses and using the meditation points of interest. When I first started applying my skill points, I was just thinking about more damage, more gooder, without taking any real consideration into what I was doing. The cool thing though, is that you can reset your sparks at any time. With so many skills and spells to unlock, it can be quite daunting at first, but the main stat you want to concentrate on is the focus meter and the focus charges. You get 3 stances to choose from. They are smash, pole and thrust. Unlocking these 3 will automatically give you 2 focus points. After figuring out my own playstyle, I invested into the smash stance and more stamina because you're going to be dodging a lot and you'll be using your heavy attack after combos too. I also chucked a couple of points into the immobilize spell, which is one of my favourite skills if used right. I'll be honest though, I wasn't even sure if I was actually going to enjoy the combat, especially coming from games that I personally really enjoy, like Lies of P, Bloodborne and Elden Ring, just to name a few, but I can honestly say that my experience has been fluid, very enjoyable with mixing combos and skills to work in a sequence together, and you still get that dopamine rush from beating a boss. The difficulty is definitely still there in Black Myth Wukong, and I have found the boss fights to still be challenging in their own right, but I still get a real satisfaction when I manage to bring them down. And like I said earlier on, combat wise, it doesn't feel like a Souls-like because that's how I was approaching it in the early game and it really didn't work. I am going to touch more on how to effectively use the combat, skills and spells in synergy with each other in my next video, but the main thing that I will say is think of the skills and the spells more as a defensive mechanic and counter-attacking abilities rather than full-on attacking abilities. Using combos to refill your focus points and full charge maxed out heavy attacks are going to be your best mate. Next, I want to talk about the performance on the PlayStation 5. When you boot up the game, you get the choice of 3 options: performance, balanced, and quality. Performance being frame rate focused, and quality being the higher graphical experience at the cost of frame rate, balanced being the best of both. I armed and ard for all of about 10 seconds and went straight in for balanced, and I've not been disappointed at all. I've had 1 or 2 minute lags in the game in the first chapter that I barely noticed, so from a performance point of view, I'm having no issues with Black Myth Wukong. I will end up doing a test with the other game modes when I start making other content for the game after completion, but I've got to say this is visually one of the most stunning games I've had the opportunity to play, and the same can also be said for the sound design. The soundtracks are sick, and the sound effects whilst in combat really complement the fighting well. That's one thing that I've really started to notice when I'm playing games now, is when I'm hitting something as hard as I can, I want to feel it and I want to hear it, and that's exactly what I've been getting with Black Myth Wukong. Another sick little touch is the short anime films in the closing of the chapters, explaining the story and the lore you just went through. I honestly do feel like I'm part of the world now, and I just want more of it. So this brings me on to the question that started this video. Is Black Myth Wukong worth the hype? But I'm going to turn that question around and ask you lot what you want from a single player action game. For me, I want to be absorbed into a world that I'm playing with a great story, a living environment, and to keep me wanting more with engaging, challenging and rewarding boss fights. For me, Black Myth Wukong does just that, and up until this point, it's not just a good game, it's a very good game. I just can't put the game down at the minute, and at the time of making this video I've just begun chapter 3, exploring as much as I can and trying to unravel the secrets hidden just as the developers' game science intended. You can tell this game has been made with love from everything I've experienced so far. So is it worth it? If you want a good single player game with fast paced and challenging combat, a compelling narrative and rewards for each new and secret part of the game you get to, it's definitely worth it. I'd love to hear down in the comments what you guys think about Black Myth Wukong and if I left anything notable out of my first 12 to 15 hours in the game, and let the others know. I'll be carrying on my journey on stream if you want to check it out. Maybe chuck a little cheeky like on the video and hit that subscribe button if you found this helpful. And I'll do a full review when I've finished it and some more content that I've got planned. I ain't going to be rushing Black Myth Wukong like some people. I want to enjoy it, and that's exactly what I intend to do. I'll see you in the next one. Cheers, mate.